Last big conference, the Atlantic. Man, people are going to say this is weak, and I hear you, but Army just won how many games? Come on, man. Army's pretty good.
They crushed Houston. It was like 70-14.
But here we are keeping Rutgers and Maryland in the same division after all I just said. The North Division of the Atlantic, which is basically I wanted to keep all of the North Carolina schools together. So based on going from North Carolina schools north on the Atlantic seaboard, we got in the North Division Boston College, Connecticut, Rutgers, Temple, Army, Navy, and Maryland, which if this started tomorrow, this is the weakest division in all of power college football.
Especially Connecticut. They went 0-12.
Connecticut set a record for like worst defense ever, didn't they?
Yep. It was over 600, I want to say.
I have heard people
points?
saying
No yards a game.
Oh.
I've heard people saying get rid of the program.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's not realistic because of the money that football brings in no matter what in a power school. So that doesn't really matter. You know, teams are going to build. Somebody will come out. Temple was very good this year. Temple, Army, Navy. How about the Army-Navy game as like...
It could be a divisional thing.
Yeah, because it is at the very end. So you just you maybe move it forward one weekend to the end of the regular season. And what if that decides who goes to the conference championship? Everybody nationwide is watching that game. More than they are now.
Definitely.
Yeah, who really cares?
So in the South...
Other than servicemen and women, thank you for your service.
The South is really cool because
Saved
it really is Virginia and North Carolina getting together and battling it out. You know there's going to be bad blood between these schools. Duke, Wake Forest, Appalachian State, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, and Virginia. Bring it up. Do it right now. You heard the one that does not belong.
Appalachian State.
That's right. They have won back-to-back Sun Belt championships. It was between, here's honest truth.
So they get in here,
It was
not Tennessee. Why are they here? Not the Ohio River.
Because I want Tennessee to keep with Vanderbilt and Kentucky and Louisville. You're putting Tennessee over with one school now. Where it was for me is it was between Appalachian State and Eastern Carolina for the team that's moving up here. But I thought, Eastern Carolina, or no, that's not going to work. Or Coastal Carolina, whichever one.
Eastern.
There's two of them.
Eastern is the one that's in North Carolina because that's the one I was looking at.
What?
But Appalachian State is in North Carolina. And
Yeah.
so that makes it geographically work, and it works from a competition standpoint. They only moved up to Division I CFP level 3 or 4 years ago, and they've won the past 2 conference championships in the Sun Belt. They are what North Dakota State would do if North Dakota State moved up to like the Mountain West right now. That's what would happen. So I think Appalachian State deserves this. They can beat North Carolina.
Yeah.
North Carolina is a dumpster fire. Even after announcing Mac Brown, you're like, all right, well, show me something.
You're still a basketball school.
Yeah, you're still okay. Even your best football players were at that school playing basketball, like Julius Peppers.
Or the fact that all their players were caught cheating. That was
Right. Yeah.
real smart there, North Carolina.
I think it's a really good Southern
this is
Division.
Interesting.
It really beats itself up.
When I look at these, and I know I touch on this a lot, and I touch on this a lot because this could be the most contention in this plan, is the anchored cross divisions. I wouldn't even have them in this conference, to be honest with you. I mean,
But it's 7 teams, so then otherwise you're playing 3 conference opponents 1 year for the next, or you're playing one every 2 years, no matter what, and it's a super long 2-year rotating basis.
and that's an issue. But I'm looking at these, and none of them really stick out to me that would be good games.
Oh,
I mean,
my friend.
Boston College and Duke? No, not really.
My friend.
Navy, Virginia Tech. Could be a good
you're
one.
focusing on the
Maybe.
ones that have nothing to start, that are starting at 0 instead of starting
Maryland,
with
Virginia?
traction. Start with traction. Yeah, Maryland, Virginia. Look at the schools that have something along a border, that have something that you immediately go, oh, okay.
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I forget sometimes that Virginia is even a state. That's how irrelevant they are.
Navy, Virginia Tech. Could be interesting very, very shortly. Same with Virginia, Maryland.
Also, anybody that lives in any other state than the ones that we live in probably hate me. I've been just talking so much trash.
Yeah,
in other
I'm
states.
having to make up for Utah during the Pacific Coast, talk about how great Utah is because of you, and all these other things.
Well, the Mormons, the angry Mormons.
Yeah, but I think just like in the Ohio River Valley, if you look at this conference as kind of a meeting of two smaller, very important divisions, it makes a lot more sense. Because like in the Ohio River Valley, you look at both divisions individually, the North, there's a lot going on. Boston College, UConn would be cool. Rutgers and Temple, Army, Navy, and Navy, Maryland, Army, Rutgers, Temple's right there near those schools.
But that's what I'm saying is like that's why there's a
and then the South is all within 2 states.
That's why there's contention for anchor rivalries because the divisions are good. Like you were saying, the divisions actually work really well. It kind of I'm realizing I'm just going to lose this fight anyway because I look at it this way. You're right.
That's one game versus 4 games.
Anchor rivalries are just one game. It's not going to matter it's not going to matter as much. These other games, these divisions are more important because they're going to have more stakes and they're going to decide who's going to be in a championship game. Where these cross division rivalries, they could play each other once every 2 years, or they could play each other in the championship, and that's fine.
Right. So it sounds redundant, but think of it on the scale that each of these 7-team divisions are the conference that each of those fan bases actually care about. And then you have a conference championship game that is basically like the opening playoff to the tournament of champions. You have the NCAA tournament that you reach that is the pinnacle, but you have to get through your conference, your little mini conference, your regional rivals champion versus this regional area's rivals champion to go to that.
And you saw even this past season how big it can be when you get big rivals in a championship game.
Right.
I mean, look at the Big 12 championship game. That probably had some of the best turnout they've ever seen because it's the Red River in a championship game. So you get that. You're going to get that for a few games, but like you said, it's a means to an end. You're going to have to get out of the way. As much as I'd like to see Nebraska and Missouri play every year, they're going to have to get out of the way for the possibility of a game in Arrowhead, but within a championship, and then that could lead to a rematch in championship.
Within your argument of who you want Nebraska's rival to be, you're giving power to the anchored rival that in some other parts you're saying doesn't matter. So they do matter. And the more you look at them, the more you're like, wait, I want that guy because you want a cool anchored rival because it has that name, even though your in-division rivals matter more.
And you give a little bit. I could see maybe Boston College and Duke being a fun rivalry. I could see that being because I think that
you're thinking of it more basketball, maybe.
Well,
which basketball wouldn't even matter with the scheduling.
I think it's an okay matchup between the two. That's the problem with the Atlantic. These are all basketball schools.
It's a weak football conference to start.
When you take the ACC, because that's
when you take out the Southern teams like Clemson and Florida State and Miami,
it really shows how weak the ACC really is.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
You saw that this season though in the ACC, and it was Clemson, and then about 50 spots dropped, and then there's your next team.
Right. And I mean, it could definitely be different the last few years because it was Florida State and Clemson, but even then, Clemson was still so much better than Florida State. Even when Florida State was still semi good after Jameis, that wasn't even close to what Clemson is.
Keep making arguments for me that I split conferences in the correct places because that's what I'm hearing from you.
I agree with you. I just think that
I split the ACC in the right spot too. On the Carolina line.
All I'm saying, what I've been saying this whole time, is occasionally this will happen. With anchored rivalries, you're not going to get that interesting of matchups.
To start.
They could change, yes. Indiana could play Nebraska and be like, you know what? We're sick of these Husker fans who live in the 90s.
Every year, man.
We're going to show them.
It'll start because you play them every year compared to your other rotating cross-divisional games. It will gain traction, but the ones that you're looking at are the ones that start with 0. Yeah, there's nothing there. Mm-hmm. It's like a non-conference inter-power school game, But it still works. But think about, there are some storylines that could come out of here, like what we talked about with Army Navy or Mac Brown, or what if Appalachian State is a top 6 seed in the college football playoffs 5 years after not being in Division I football because they could have a chance to win this division. Look at how wide open it is.
It's a really weak division. Yeah.
It's because they would be able to compete immediately. Don't say weak. Say they could compete immediately, and it makes
This is a
everybody
weak-
sound
this
better.
is a weak division. Duke and Wake Forest.
Right now, it's a weak division.
Yeah, it could get better.
Duke and Wake Forest are in the same weak division right now.
Duke is on the upswing though.
As their quarterback.
They've dipped back down. Like they've gone on like this weird thing where they're up and down. They're either they're 9-3 or they're 6-6. It's one. It feels like one or the other.
So that leaves us.
But they are getting into bowl games. That's the important thing.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to our in-depth analysis on how to restructure college football. If you want to hear all conferences, you can hear the other installments of this on the Loud Sports Podcast or the long form on the Loud Sports Podcast, or you can read it on my website at cornfedmedia.org.